Hello. So in this video, we're going to talk about something that students often say to instructors that you probably shouldn't. It's not necessarily a huge problem, but it doesn't have the impact that students often think it does, and I want to explain why. So what students often say to instructors, particularly after receiving a grade that they're not happy with, is, but I worked really hard on that. And that's good. You should be working hard. That's generally a good sign. However, without meaning to be mean, it kind of doesn't matter. So the thing is, for the most part, assignments are graded as a product rather than a process. And that's a really important distinction. A product is the outcome of the work that you have done. The process is the work itself, the effort that you have put in, the techniques, the strategies, the tools you have utilized, etc., etc. The problem is, the work can be really good, the process can be really good, and the product can still not be good. So this is a thing that you as a student want to be aware of. We can't really assess your process for the most part. We can't assess how much work you put in. And one of the things that typically instructors in universities try to do is we try to assess everyone as equally as possible. Now I say that, and I sort of recognize that there are people who grade on a curve and things like this, and that, yes, you're stacking people up against one another rather than grading against an objective set of standards. The idea of grading on a curve is theoretically still somehow representative and objective. Personally, I don't believe in it, but a lot of people do it, and I understand that. But generally speaking, in some sense, we are trying to assess you more or less objectively. First off, we don't have access to the work that you put in. How much effort you put into a thing, unless all of the work that you have done on this thing and all of the thinking you've done about this thing has been during class time itself, we simply can't assess that. If you wrote your essay, if I give you an essay assignment 3 weeks before it's due and you sit down that night and start writing and you draft it, and then every day after we have our class, you go home and you incorporate whatever we learned into that draft, and you spend 3 full weeks on this to the exclusion of everything else. That's a lot of effort. But I don't know whether you've done that or not. That's part of the thing here, is I don't know whether you worked on this essay for 3 weeks to the exclusion of everything else in your life, or whether you sat down and wrote it the night before. Now, I slightly do know that because my projects tend to be somewhat scaffolded, but I don't know that one way or the other. I don't have access to all of your process, and so because I don't have access to it, I can't see it, I can't measure it, I can't account for that in the grading. Additionally, what you consider to be a lot of effort may not be what I consider to be a lot of effort. And it may not be what, say, the person sitting in the desk next to you considers to be a lot of effort. This is the problem with an idea like, I put a lot of effort into this, I spent a lot of time on this, I put a lot of work into this, any of these kinds of things. These are all vague measurements. How much is a lot? And how do I know that you, when you say, I put a lot of effort into that you would be doing what I consider a lot of effort? If you consider a lot of effort to be, I sat down and wrote this the night before, but I consider a lot of effort to be, you've done 5 drafts where you get progressively finer in your proofreading of this document, going from large-scale revisions through medium-scale revisions and finally down to editing. Your version of I put a lot of work into it may not be my version of a lot of work into it. So how could I assess that fairly? Because, so A, in the sense that, yeah, I can't, it's not, so the thing is, I can't be sure that you're not lying to me. And I say that, I don't want to suggest that I think you are lying to me, because I think often students, when they make this claim, they aren't lying. They do feel that they've put in a lot of effort. But I can't necessarily hold you to the standard that I would hold myself to, right? Because I write a lot, I do a lot of scholarship, and I put in a good amount of work on them, on the articles and on the books and things that I write. You're not a professional scholar. So, yeah, I could set an arbitrary bar at which I say, all right, students in a first-year writing course should be putting in this amount of effort, but I can't really assess that. So, again, it's an unmeasurable thing. And so I think it's something, if you're a student and you're unhappy with the grade that you've received, look to the product itself. Look to the essay or the exam or whatever it is. And if you think there is a meritorious case for that essay or whatever to get a better grade, make the argument based on that. If you can convince me that I have misread or misunderstood or missed something about your essay that actually makes the argument stronger than I thought it was, yeah, I will consider regrading it. I've done it before. I will probably do it again. But if the argument is, I put a lot of time or effort or labor into it, then first off, I can't assess that. Second off, that's not what the grading standards say anyway. So you want to be aware of that.